everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Laura and this is Culture Nonsense. And yes, I am wearing a hat indoors, but I am cold and it feels a little festive and we're doing something different today. We're talking about Saturnalia, which for me, as someone who studied classics and Latin in school, is something that's always fun to revisit this time of year because Saturnalia was essentially a Roman holiday that was a precursor in a lot of ways to Christmas. It was celebrated from the 17th of December to the 23rd of December, so it was a week-long festival, and a lot of the Christmas traditions that we have today actually come from this festival. So let's get into it, talk a little bit about the history, and find out where some of our favorite Christmas traditions come from, actually from the Romans. So Saturnalia was the most popular holiday on the ancient Roman calendar, and that's kind of no surprise because it was an entire week-long festival of partying, drinking, feasting, all sorts of stuff like that, and the general vibe was very jolly with a lot of merrymaking and a lot of social conventions that were kind of upturned. Rome had an extremely strict social hierarchy, and this time of year inverted a lot of those rules and let people do things that they normally wouldn't be allowed to do. So this holiday was derived from older farming-related rituals surrounding midwinter and the winter solstice, especially the practice of offering some types of gifts or sacrifices to gods during the winter sowing season. Saturnalia originated as a farmer's festival to mark the end of the autumn planting season in honor of Saturn. Saturn is a little bit of a mysterious figure in Roman religion. Depictions of him in surviving art often have him wearing a veil or brandishing either a sickle or a pruning knife, which kind of suggests that close relation to agriculture and especially seed growing. He was regarded as a primordial deity who had taught humanity important agricultural skills, and he was thought to have ruled when the world enjoyed a type of golden age with prosperity and happiness, which kind of relates back to the general sense of frivolity that his festival held. Saturnalia officially started as a one-day holiday sometime back before the 5th century BCE. We're not exactly sure when it started, but it had been around for hundreds of years by the time we got to the late Roman Republic era. Think Cicero a little bit before Caesar, and by that time it had expanded to a 7-day festival. So started off as one day. As popularity grew over the hundreds of years, it just got longer and longer. During the reign of Augustus, he tried to shorten the festival to 3 days, I think probably because he was a little bit of a stickler and didn't like that the entire state kind of shut down for an entire week. So he tried to shorten it to 3 days. A little while later, the Emperor Caligula expanded it again to 5 days. However, there are a lot of reports that people ignored the proclamations about how long the holiday should be and just celebrated for an entire week during this time anyway. So as I just mentioned, during Saturnalia, everything kind of shut down. Schools were closed, law courts were closed, businesses were closed, pretty much no one was working. At one point, actually, this guy Catiline actually took the opportunity to plan a coup, hoping that everyone would be unawares, but he was eventually caught and it didn't work out. Nonetheless, this entire time was set aside for celebrating, so no real work got done. People decorated their homes with wreaths and other greenery. Some people even think, some parts of trees were brought inside, which may have led to Christmas trees later down the road. They also didn't wear traditional togas and instead wore different types of colorful clothes, sometimes mismatching and a little bit more relaxed. And even slaves didn't have to work during Saturnalia, and they were allowed to participate in festivities, and in some cases they sat at the head of the table while their masters served them. We even have an excerpt from the poet Lucian describing Saturn saying, "During my week the serious is banned, no business allowed, drinking and being drunk, noise and games of dice, appointing of kings and feasting of slaves, singing naked, clapping, and occasional ducking or corked faces in icy water. Such are the functions over which I preside." So instead of working, Romans spent Saturnalia gambling, singing, playing music, feasting, socializing, and giving each other gifts. Wax taper candles were common gifts during this time, and they were thought to signify light returning after the solstice. In addition to lights being directly related to the solstice, there's also this weird little legend talking about the ancient Latins giving heads to Hades or Saturn, and some type of linguistic interpretation saying, this word is closely associated with lights instead, so why don't we give lights to Saturn? So it was a way to kind of get away from any human sacrifices and a much more pleasant interpretation. Now, different days in Saturnalia had different activities or things that the festival was centered around. So there were different feast days for Saturn and his wife. And on the last day of Saturnalia, many Romans gave friends and loved ones small terracotta figures, little toys or gifts. And this is definitely one of those examples where we can see a direct link or connection to Christmas and gift giving, because it was something that was alive and well in Roman culture many years before Christmas. So as I mentioned, the last day of this festival was kind of named after the fair where you might buy these small toys or gifts. And it was often a tradition for people to give money to their dependents or to the poor so that they could buy these cheap goods there. During this time, the kind of topsy-turvy role reversal was also associated with the value of gifts too. So it was seen as the most significant or important if you could get someone a gift that had little value. That's not to say that sometimes people didn't get people nicer or larger gifts too, but it was seen as almost like a challenge. You could get someone something really insignificant, and because it was so small or insignificant, it was supposed to have a greater value. And this could also be a challenge in trying to find something that was very cheap but also had a great personal significance to someone. That was more so something for the adults to do amongst themselves. Children got little toys. Other things that went on during this time is the tradition of a mock king being chosen. The Saturnalicius Princeps, or leader of Saturnalia, sometimes called the Lord of Misrule, was usually a lowlier member of the household, maybe even a small boy, and this figure was responsible for making mischief during celebrations, including things like insulting guests, wearing crazy clothing, or chasing women and girls, etc. The idea was that he ruled over chaos rather than the normal Roman order. The common holiday custom of hiding coins or other small objects in cakes is also one of the many things that dates back to Saturnalia, and this was also a method of choosing the mock king. So you get a little cake and there's like a little coin inside, and if you get the lucky piece, you're chosen. Continuing along with this role reversal convention, another thing that happened would be masters wearing the freed slave felt hats or waiting on their slaves. These hats were something that were given to slaves once they had purchased their freedom, although if they were wearing this hat, you would know that they used to be a slave, so they still were relatively low on the social hierarchy. So yet another example of social conventions being overturned during this time. The focal point of the Saturnalia festival was at the Temple of Saturn in the northwest corner of the Roman Forum. Within the temple once stood a cult statue of Saturn, which became the center of attention during Saturnalia, when his feet were symbolically freed from these woolen bonds that tied him up for the rest of the year. So this is another manifestation of the role reversal. Essentially, his feet being freed from being tied up is associated with liberation, which goes along with the general air of the festival and overturning those stifling Roman social conventions, if only for a week. You would also hear the seasonal greeting Io Saturnalia or Yo Saturnalia, depending on dialects, being shouted everywhere, like you might hear Merry Christmas being thrown around today. And people really did go kind of crazy celebrating. In fact, sometimes you could say it was downright rowdy, or maybe more applicable to comparing this to like Mardi Gras or another crazy celebration like that. There were definitely a couple of Romans like Seneca and Pliny who in their writings talked about not really enjoying how raucous and crazy everything got. At one point, Pliny kind of locked himself away in his study to try to get work done while everything was going on. Now, if you don't know much about Roman history and you're kind of failing to see how some of these things directly impact our Christmas celebrations, well, the Roman Empire had conquests all throughout Europe. So pretty much all of Britain, Germany, France, Spain, vast areas of Europe was all under Roman control. And they exported a lot of their customs and traditions to these places as well. So Saturnalia was not only something that was celebrated in Italy, it was celebrated all throughout Europe a little bit as Romans spread. For example, during this spread too, Romans also suppressed some older seasonal rites practiced by Celts and other groups. That's not to say some of those traditions didn't continue in some ways, but it's just an example of how Romans putting Saturnalia in different areas of Europe let some of these traditions carry on into what we practice during midwinter celebrations like Christmas today. And again, if you're thinking such riotous things like gambling, drinking a lot, and feasting don't sound especially Christmas-like, well, for a long time, Christmas itself wasn't really celebrated like we do it today. It was a pretty drunky and rowdy holiday, much like Saturnalia. For a long time, the most important holiday on the Christian calendar was Easter, not Christmas. The wassail parties that went from house to house, for example, demanding that their bowls be refilled with wine and sometimes throwing rocks at those who failed to comply, were dreaded by householders. Another example, Washington crossing the Delaware on Christmas Eve, knew that he could count on finding the Hessians drunk. In 1659, the New England Puritans banned Christmas completely for reasons like this. Christmas becoming a more family-centric and especially children-centered holiday really only started in the 19th century. We have kind of the invention of the Santa Claus figure, which a lot of people date back to Dutch population in New York and looking at St. Nicholas, and also Charles Dickens and the Christmas Carol. A lot of this media recentered Christmas to be more of a family holiday rather than just kind of a drunken, rowdy party. For a time, people thought that high-ranking members in the Christian church, put Christmas near Saturnalia just completely to supplant it and kind of make this time a Christian holiday instead. But it's not that simple. I think what's more likely is that by the 4th century CE, Christianity was much more popular in the Roman Empire. A lot of people were Christian, but at this point, Saturnalia had been going on for like 1,000 years. So it was just a very important cultural holiday, and a lot of those influences just remained and kind of bled over into Christmas. People had traditionally been patrons to the old pagan festivals. In their role as civic patrons, they did Christian things now, but the old festivals were useful in binding the community together. So often these people are rolling together celebrations in a more Christian guise and continuing the old traditions. So a lot of these traditions that carried over included the giving of gifts, feasting, lighting candles, bringing greenery into the household, things like that. One thing that has been consistent from ancient Roman holidays all the way through now is that this time of year is especially jolly for a lot of people. There's a lot of merrymaking, a lot of spending time with friends and family, and I hope all of you are able to experience that this year. I hope you've had a wonderful holiday season and continue to do so no matter what you're celebrating this year. That's it for me today. I hope you like this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Everyone have a great Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. See you next time. Bye.